welcome to 8 Minutes. My name is Emily. I'm the maker and creator of everything you see here on this channel, mainly about knitting, sometimes about some other crafty things, but today is going to be all about yarn. So for the last couple of years, basically since mid-2022, I have been analyzing my yarn stash every 4 to 6 months or so. So I want to figure out where I was number-wise with my stash at the end of 2023, and then I also have acquired a few things since the start of the year, so I will add that into, I have a full spreadsheet, so that added into my spreadsheet. Got my laptop here. I was looking back at some notes that I had from the start of 2023, and my goal by the end of the year was to have less than 20 skeins. I wanted a couple of sweater quantities, and that to be about it. I can pretty much tell you now, just by not even opening this, that there is not 20 skeins in here. There is definitely more, but we're just gonna see. We're gonna see. I don't know that I need to stick to that number, but we're gonna count, we're gonna analyze, we're gonna figure it out and see what my goals and what my plans are for 2024 when it comes to growing or decreasing my yarn stash. And before we go any further, I forgot to tell you I am wearing a hand knit too, actually. So this is a Lilling cardigan. I made it a couple of years ago. It is designed by Abby Knits. I test knit it, and it has a really pretty lace detail in the back. Let me see if I can show you. Hopefully you see it. If you don't, then apologies. And I am wearing hand knit socks. This is one of the socks I knit in the last year, 2023. It's all stored in this little underbed bag for the most part. So I'm gonna go through here. Anything that is in a current project, I am not going to count this time as a part of my stash because it's designated for a project, and I really don't have that many. I'm hoping to finish them soon, but we'll see. Another feature that I like to categorize is it for a planned project, or is it just yarn floating in the ether that I'm not sure what to do with? That makes me feel very uncomfortable. So most of my yarns, I think at this point I have plans for, but you never know. That's why it's always good, even though I think I have a handle on things, to sit down and go through all my yarn. I don't do the best job. I can update my spreadsheet, of course, as I acquire yarns or as I use them, but honestly, I don't do the best job of that. So it is fun though for me anyway, every few months to sit down, dig it all out, reorganize it, write it in my spreadsheet, take a look, and figure out how much I really have. Where do I want to be? Do I want to decrease that stash? Am I comfortable with the number? Hello, welcome back. Okay, I am back. I am on the couch and I am ready to dive in with my laptop to these numbers on this spreadsheet here. So I am gonna look back. I'm gonna go over to some of the biggest standouts for me. Obviously, I got a visual when I went through all my yarn and reorganized and stuff, but now I can actually look at the numbers, compare and contrast to months previous, and see, have I actually made an impact, and where am I going? What are my intentions with this stash analyzation? So let's dive into it. As you can expect, I'll probably be looking down just a little bit because I am looking at this spreadsheet. When I first counted, my first ever analyzation of my yarn stash was in July of 2022, and I had 72 skeins of yarn. It wasn't necessarily it wasn't until the end of 2022 that I started breaking it down in the way I do, so I don't have all of the differences, but I had 72 skeins of yarn and I was astonished. I was like, oh my gosh, I have so many. So I've definitely decreased that number since then. So I started 2023 with 57. When I say full skeins, because some skeins come in 50-gram balls and some skeins come in 100-gram balls. So when I say full skeins, I'm adding those together. So all 100 grams plus all 50 grams. And then I do have a 20-gram or more little segment for leftovers and minis and stuff. But when I say full skeins, I'm referring to a 50-gram or more ball. So I had, in December of 2022, I had 57 full skeins of yarn. I started the year, or in December 2022, so just a little over a year ago, I had 37 skeins of animal fibers, 18 of cellulose, and 2 of synthetics. So that is where I started 2023. I had projects, my 29 skeins of yarn were planned for projects and 28 were unplanned. So they're about half and half, 50-50. So I had a lot of unplanned yarn, and now I do remember using a lot of that for hats and scrappy projects so that I can get a lot of that unplanned yarn out of my stash. I also categorize it from weight, so fingering weight to super bulky weight. So I had 23 grams of 23 skeins, of fingering yarn, 18 of DK, 19 of worsted. So a lot of worsted Aran yarn. and then 5 super bulky. So looking through, mid-year 2023 in September, I ended up doing an analysis again. I had decreased the total amount of yarn I had to 52, so I had used 5 full skeins of yarn, so got some of that out of my stash. So I ended 2023 with 42 full, again full is 50 grams or more, skeins of yarn. So overall in 2023, I decreased my yarn stash by 15 skeins of yarn. And then if we're including those smaller ones, I started the year with 69 total 20 gram or more skeins of yarn. And I ended the year with 48. So basically decreased 21 20 gram or more. So again, I think it's obvious here that I used a lot of scraps, which I definitely did. Also throughout the year, I did, like I already mentioned, purchase some yarns, but then use them immediately for projects. So that just went in and out. It didn't really go into the stash because I just used it right away. And I did use the scraps again right away for some home projects. So I ended the year with 26 fingering weight skeins of yarn. So a little bit more than what I started the year with. And I ended the year with 0 super bulky, so that was exciting because I don't have much use for it here. But definitely this year, especially towards the end, I've gotten on that fingering weight yarn trend, or train, not necessarily a trend, but for my environment. And I was always intimidated by the thinness of the yarn. I always thought I should be scared of it, but honestly, I think it's going to be really beneficial. So now I ended the year, I used a lot of those unplanned skeins of yarn in the scrappy projects and whatnot. So I have 26 skeins of yarn that have planned projects and 16 are unplanned, just sitting around. So I think that's an improvement. I still don't love that number. 16 is kind of a lot for me, if I'm being honest. So I kind of do want to be intentional with those and get those out of the stash. Something else about my reflections from my yarn stash. So not only that I'm increasing my use of fingering weight, I don't have any synthetic fibers anymore. Everything is animal or cellulose. So I have 24 skeins of animal fibers and 18 of cellulose fibers. So definitely leaning towards those non-synthetic fibers, which is my personal preference, like I mentioned before. Furthermore, let's take a look. I already mentioned 42 skeins of yarn, 48 if we're counting 20 grams or more, so not even that much significant of a difference. So I don't have many scraps left over. I'm really using them. I don't always know what to do with those scraps of those mini skeins, but it's been really fun this past year to get creative, find projects, make strappy projects, or just search Ravelry for more projects to use those skeins for. Furthermore, okay, one other reflection is my spinning. So in 2022, I got a spindle. It was actually 2021, Christmas. I got a spindle. 2022 was kind of my year of spinning, kind of. I started spinning, I got some fiber, but then I just kind of fell off and I didn't spin at all in 2023. I don't think I brought the spindle out and rotated it once. However, when I was going through my yarn stash, that's where I had my spindle, I was like, let me get this back out. So now it's out. Now it's with my other whips. I have a bag of like a couple of whips. I put my spindle and some fiber in that little area, so it's more obvious to me in the area that I craft, and I can reach for it more often. Okay, now I have an admission. So you know how I said I ended 2023 with 42 full skeins of yarn, and now it's January 17th, 2024? So that's all true, but I did fall, not victim, because I'm very excited to have what I have, but I did purchase some yarn. I was very excited for like the end of year sales, the clear out sales, get this off my shelf, new year, like we're finishing 2023, start of 2024, I want new things. So like Yarn Dyers had some sales, which was fantastic, but what that meant for me was that I purchased some yarn. So I no longer have only 42 skeins of yarn in my stash. With that new yarn that I purchased, I now have 57 skeins of yarn in my stash. So basically I bought 15 skeins of yarn. Now, some of it is from Knitting for Olive, which was a Knitting for Olive sale, and that is all 50 gram skeins. And I know exactly what project I'm going to use them for. I'm going to cast it on relatively soon, I think. Terrapin Fiberwork, she's a plant-based dyer, and I've never bought hand-dyed plant fibers before, so I really wanted to try her out, and I took advantage again of one of her sales. So I have some of that in my stash. Those are the two companies that I purchased from at the end of the year, and now I have 57 skeins of yarn in my stash, 30 of animal, 27 of cellulose, so they are getting more and more even. 39 at this point of which are fingering, so lots and lots of fingering weight yarn in my stash. That's pretty much, everything I purchased was fingering weight. I still kind of want to investigate that DK, that's 13 skeins of DK in my stash, 6 of worsted. So I kind of want to investigate that a little bit further. I think I can bring those numbers down. So 46 of my skeins of yarn at this point are planned, and 11 skeins of yarn are for unplanned projects. So again, that number, not a lot, but I wish it was a little bit lower. But hey, I'm really happy with my stash right now. I don't feel like I've got a ton of things that are unplanned, but definitely having less than 20 skeins of yarn in my stash, which was my goal apparently at the beginning of 2023, is not close. I am not there. But if I keep making as much as I have been the last 2 months or so, then I will definitely be using a lot of this stash yarn, I think and hope. So I am going to keep making, keep knitting. I hope you do too. Let me know how many skeins of yarn you have in your stash. Do you analyze it like I do, or what's your philosophy with your stash? Tell me below. I think that's gonna wrap it up for today. I would love to grow some kind of community here, so please comment down below if you are a fiber friend, and I will hopefully see you in the next one. Bye guys, happy knitting.